Yeah, we're up here at the OSU Extension office. Bill is here with us, Seffi, myself, and Brandon. And then on the call, we've got Mike, who is been the programmer for Plant Pro Network, and Brandon and I and he have kind of been creators of this program, and so kind of like in the shout out, wanted to go over what we think is probably the most involved process of the three main users, which is going to be the grower, nursery, plant production, um, the people that make the plants. So they're one category, and then designers are a category, and then buyer contractors, other resale nurseries, they would be the third user. So of those, we're going to go over the grower part, and in particular, what we think are the um, more detail oriented parts of the program, which have to do with inventory. We just completed our QuickBooks integration. QuickBooks seems like that's what most folks are using to do their accounting and just their financial management, and really where they create invoices. So we're using that as kind of the bridge for our inventory needs. But we custom built that connection with QuickBooks, and so if we get further down the road and there's like other programs that are similar to QuickBooks, we could adopt those as well. Just keep that in mind. So it's not just like, oh, you have to have QuickBooks or that's it. And we don't have anything to do with QuickBooks. Uh, it just again seemed like that's what most people use. Um, so um, that's kind of the reason we wanted to start with this for the training. So we want to onboard growers and just kind of get everyone familiarized with the program itself. We'll have this video handy for people to go back. We'll clip out a lot of like the junk that I just said, that is just kind of rambling or dead space. But I think this meeting overall will go relatively quick. It's not a complicated thing. Um, I don't think. But we do want, if you guys have questions, please take the time to ask, and feedback is welcome, for sure. That's kind of where we're at right now. So there's no dumb questions at all. So what I'll probably do is here in a second, I'm gonna hand it over to Brandon, and he's just going to kind of go top down for the growers from, getting onto the site, creating an account, and then what that inventory management tool consists of. Our real goal is to keep live updated inventory. We felt like that was a pain point for a lot of nurseries. And so we wanted to come up with a solution on the front end for that. Because in order for this program to really work well, live inventory is imperative. And for nurseries that have live inventory all the time, it has to be simple. It has to be something that is automated. So it's not something that you're having to mess with over and over and over again. It's just basically updating itself. So as long as the information on the front end, as you create your user account, as long as the information is correct on the front end going into it, you'll spend a little bit of time there. But management and maintenance beyond that is very limited, very little. So we feel like it's a comprehensive, good program, and that's very basic and simple. But yeah, I'll hand it over to Brandon, and then I'll be here for whatever you need me for.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds good. If you guys have any questions or anything, just jump in there and stop me. We've got, so the main link to access the program is app.myplantpro.com. We also have just a front facing like one page site that anyone can view. It's got some details on there. It's got like a quick 4.5 minute video that kind of overviews the platform as a whole. So if you wanted to check that out, you can. When you come in here, you'll click this button if you need to sign up and create a new account. I'll go ahead and log in. Let's see. I'll log in as a nursery user. And this is what you'll first see whenever you log into the platform. The first thing that you'll want to do is go over here and you can fill out all of your contact information, your name, your business, and the location. And I think the first place we'll probably want to go check out is the inventory section. So like Galt mentioned, we have the QuickBooks connection. We also have the ability, you can add in inventory manually. So within your inventory, you can add existing plants that we have in the system. So we have different categories here. You can choose a plant that matches up with what you have, enter in a size, and then we have default sizes here to choose from. Quantity, price, SKU number, which you can pull in also from QuickBooks. And then active or inactive, if you want to go ahead and add it to your inventory, but it may not be ready to sell, you can go ahead and mark it no, and it won't show up in the shop. And then we also have a list here too, if you wanted to search, just do like a Command F search and you can see the plants that we already have this way too. If you have a plant that we don't have in the system, you can add it to the global inventory. So you give it a category, mark it as native or non-native, botanical name, and common name. And this will make you basically the owner of this plant when it gets added into the system. So you can add in a description if you have it. If you upload an image, that is what will show as the primary image here in the shop. We can also add in images on our end as well, but if you leave it blank, it will just have the logo like this. But whatever image you upload, if you're adding it to the master list, will show up here. And then we have orders will come in through here. So whenever you get an order, it will show up in here. And you can also share out your inventory with other people that work at your company and have a login. You can share it out here so you can collaborate on the same inventory list. And then I think really the biggest thing is syncing with QuickBooks. So we have, if you click this button, it gives detailed instructions for how to set up the connection. If you're new to QuickBooks and you've added your inventory into PPN, the process is pretty easy. You'll just go through the sync and then everything will get pulled over to that QuickBooks environment. If you're syncing from QuickBooks to PPN, it's a little bit trickier. We've provided instructions on how the plants need to be named so they can match up to the plants that we have in our system. So we have instructions there. This is a continuous sync. So once you get this set up, everything will be automated when sales come in through PPN or offline sales are entered into QuickBooks. Those quantities will be updated simultaneously. And there is a point where QuickBooks may get disconnected. You'll get an email if that happens, and you'll just have to re-log in and authenticate. And then again, we have some references here for plant sizes and how we have things set up in our list. Mike also has a screen. Also, Mike, jump in too if I'm missing anything.
Great so far.
Okay. He's got a video here that we can send you guys as well that just uses a demo to go through the process. So this is connecting to QuickBooks, coming back over to PPN. And what you'll need to do is it will show you if, so plant will become checked if it's matched up to a plant that we have in our system. But this will also give you the ability to edit a plant that may not have been named in that conventional way to match up, so it can match up to our system. And then you can check everything that you want to bring over. And after that's happened, let's see here. Come back in, and it will show you if there was any errors in the import. And this is where you can click that and see what those specific plants are. It could be just a naming issue, like capitalization issue, and you can match it up with the plant that we have in our system, and then that'll get added back to your inventory. If it's not in our system, this is where you can request to add it to our system. So on the left side, yeah, over here, request a PPN add, you can click this box, and then we'll get an email and we can accept it, add it into the system, and then that plant will get carried over so it can get matched up.
Process is similar to like if you were to import a CSV to Excel and you had some data in a date time column that was a word, and Excel was like, hey, that's not a date time. That's kind of what's going on here, where PPN is just evaluating the data coming over from QuickBooks and saying it doesn't quite match, and here's the issues. But it'd be a good idea, Brandon and Galt, to put this video on that page to allow them to watch it and have a good overview of what a successful import looks like and all those steps. So I'll get that added.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And just real quick, I'm going to chime in. So ultimately what we're doing is, obviously we're showing you guys how to use the program, get your inventory in, how to use QuickBooks, and that information is in the form of the video. It's going to be in this video as well. But the what we're trying to do is build a master list and build up the inventory for the whole system by co-oping with nurseries. And so you're taking your inventory and putting it in with, potentially dozens as we continue to expand, dozens of other nurseries. And then, then we can start to go to the designers and the contractors for a program that's got some bulk to it, that they can really, have a lot of selection, and a lot of opportunity. So that's really what we're doing, trying to create a co-op system for the nurseries, for their inventory, for one master inventory. Hopefully that makes sense, and we can touch on that a little bit more towards the end.
Is there any questions on inventory? I think that pretty much would cover it.
I have a quick question, and please don't interpret my question as meaning that I'm an expert in QuickBooks, because I am not. But I know, and this may be outdated, but I know in the past, not everybody used QuickBooks Online. They would use, they download their software onto a computer and manage their receipts, accounts, inventory, whatever, and then transfer it. I think most people are moving to online. Is the accessing your QuickBooks through the online, is that a requirement for using the app?
Mike, I think that would be yes. Is that right?
Right. The API is talking to the online environment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Great.
But also you can manually do these things. Like if you don't want
Right,
to
right.
use, okay, yeah.
Yep. Gotcha.
Yeah, the entire PPN was built initially to be a standalone application, and then we realized that it should be tied to other systems like QuickBooks and stuff to make that process even easier. So we
Right.
branched out and did that, and it'll continue growing and branching out, and pun intended, branching out. But yeah, so it could stand alone and not connect to any other system if that's the desire. You can start with this, then connect it to QuickBooks later, and that process going the other way is a lot easier because we're feeding QuickBooks our interpretation of the names. versus the QuickBook interpretation of how we think the plant should be named.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mike, was there anything else you can think of on inventory?
Um, did you go into like editing and stuff just in case, or I guess, yeah, it's pretty much the same interface. It's just, so if you had to make a change or something, you can do it there. Were we talking about, we'll get to talking about pricing in the shop, right, later?
Yeah, I think Galt was gonna cover that at the end. I was gonna just jump into the shop next just to show what it looked like.
The reason why I mentioned that is just because the price in inventory would be different than the price in the shop.
Right, right.
I just wanted to make sure that that was addressed.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so in the shop, plants will populate here for the different categories that we have. You can choose to shop native only if you want. So that's why we ask for that tag when you add a new plant to the system. So if people want to just look at natives, they can. We have a lot of different filters on the system now. We're probably going to clean these up and make it a lot more simple to use, just some primary ones. From here, you can obviously shop plants. You can check out just with a general cart if you want to come in, just buy plants and leave the system. If you're working on a project, you can add plants to that specific project and also check out that way. So if we look at this ground cover, we can add it to our test project. 50. We'll pop back over here and then we can check out through PayPal. Put in our delivery info and you can buy plants that way. And this is where we really see the main benefit as if you're a designer, contractor, and you're working on a project, sharing out files and adding in notes, and just shopping around with what's available in the system. And then just as far as like this is what that primary image will look like. Also, if you see plants in the system that don't have an image, or you may have a better image, we can always override that in the master list and make sure it has an image. And then this is where that description will populate. Other than that, orders will come through in the system. Buyers will get an email notification. Nurseries will get an email notification. Right now we have a universal delivery date on there of Thursdays in the email orders. I think that kind of covers everything in the shop. You guys have anything else?
I don't think so. The shopping part of it's pretty straightforward. If you've been to online e-commerce, you can probably play around with that and figure it out pretty quick. You know, I mean, we understand that probably the inventory part of it, especially on the front end, getting going, may be a little daunting, but between Brandon, Seffi, and I, we'll deploy some resources and are willing to go offsite to help you guys out, to get it up and running. So, you know, if you just feel like it's kind of overwhelming and you can't figure it out, I mean, just let us know. It's real important right now for us to start with the growers and get the growers on board. I don't know if I've said this or not, but it doesn't cost you guys anything. This is a free program for growers. When the buyer checks out, we add 7.5% to cover you know, the financial needs of the program. But that's above and beyond the price. You know, there's no subscription fee or anything like that. So I mean, there's really, in our opinion, there wouldn't be any reason not to use it. There's only upside, especially right now. I think the only downside is that you're not on it yet. and the inventory part of it might be kind of like, man, do I really want to get into all this stuff? So we're here to help with that for sure.
And
But
definitely, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
oh yeah, go ahead.
interrupt. There's always a delay, and I thought there's a pause. Questions and comments, of course, if you're on the app and you have a question and you want to type it out there, it goes to Brandon Galt and I, and we can definitely take care of that if you want to communicate that way, or encounter some kind of error message and you need to paste it there. That's helpful too. So it's right there in the app. You don't have to be like, oh, what's their email address? It's right there in the app.
Yep. That
You,
was kind
you
of,
mentioned, I have a quick question. You mentioned that you set the delivery date as Thursday, kind of a default universal date. Who determines the delivery location? Is that the buyer or the seller, or that has to be, discussed, negotiated? How is that handled?
Go ahead.
I think right now we have it as the buyer location would
Okay.
be the delivery spot.
Okay.
Yeah, so when they create the order, they'll have a project site. And whenever the order goes to the nursery to fulfill, they'll see that address, and then it's, on the scheduled date. And then I think that there's a time frame as well in there.
Thank you.
How are we going to negotiate that?
So Bill was asking, are there minimum orders? And currently we have no minimums set up. Ultimately, I think it makes sense to have some minimums, but right now there's not. So we're just trying to get everyone on board and to use the program. And we do have the ability to reject an order. So if an order comes in and it was like one switchgrass and it's in like Tulsa, and you're like, I don't want to drive all the way out to Tulsa. He can punt and kick the can, and another nursery can pick that up. Is the way we have it set up. Ultimately, I think that would be adjusted as we move along. But was that interesting?
Yes. Might be a good spot to talk about delivery dispersing.
Yeah, and I do want let's go over like kind of the nuts and bolts of an order, and definitely if you guys have some questions after I go through this, please let me know, especially if it doesn't make any sense, which it may not. So let's say that you have the master list, and you have a bunch of nurseries in there. An order comes through. Let's say one of the items on the order is little blue stem. A little blue stem is pretty common. There's going to be multiple nurseries that probably have that 1 gallon little blue stem. So let's say that there are 3 nurseries that have that, and only 3 in this scenario. Okay. The program looks at it from a percentage of inventory for the nursery for that item in particular. So let's say that nursery A has 50, nursery B has 30, and nursery C has 20 units. Okay. For a total of 100. And let's just, in this scenario, let's also say that it just happens to be 100 units that are needed. The nursery, or I'm sorry, the program itself says, okay, nursery A has 50% of the total inventory of this one item. So 50% of the order is going to go to nursery A. So 50 units, nursery A is on the hook for. Nursery B has 30%. They're going to get 30 units. And nursery C, who has 20%, is going to get 20 units. So the program looks at it really from a percentage standpoint, as it starts to chew up that order and send it out to the participating nurseries. So that's how it's divvying up an order as it comes through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. What if in that same scenario, Galt, the order is for 50? How does and there's 100 in the inventory across those three nurseries? How does it handle that?
It'll do the same thing. It'll still divide it up as
By 50 by the
50%,
percentages.
30%, 20%.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So does that make sense to
Yeah,
everyone else?
can you, hopefully you can hear me okay. Does it take into consideration any geographical locations? Let's say like it is ordering from Tulsa and the largest percentage is coming from maybe like southwestern Oklahoma or something like that. How, like, can we choose who we are buying from directly? Or is it just like a trying to be as fair as possible percentage wise across the board?
Yeah, currently we don't have any guardrails set up on it. So it's not looking at the logistics part of it. The territory. So we're looking at Oklahoma right now as its own kind of like one region, if you will. This is where we're starting this PPN program as well. Most of who we're talking to right now is just the ONPN group. So it's, Oklahoma City, Tulsa area. At some point, it will just make sense to start working on kind of like more subregions as we add in more inventory and more users. But right now, we just don't have it set up like that. The one thing that you can do is if it doesn't make sense for you to fulfill the order, is to reject is to not do it. It's just decline. Does that make sense?
Right. So there still isn't a way to directly buy from one grower or a particular grower.
So recently we have thought about the idea of doing that, just being able to go into the program, pick who you want to work with directly and just order from them. It's not a difficult thing to create. And if we have the need or the requests to do that, then we can. This is probably the second time that's been brought up. So you would essentially we would create a database of the growers. You would find that, well, I want a ABC grower. That's who I want to buy from. Just go into their inventory list and just pick and choose, boom, 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 shop. The order will go to them. And then, they'll see the delivery of where it's going, or you can arrange for a pickup. We don't have it set up right now, but that is something that is a change, an update that we could do, and it could be done pretty quick.
Okay, yeah, I'm just thinking from the purchaser side. I know that I want Bill Ferris's plants over some other people's plants, right? And
Sure.
so I don't know if there's any other filters potentially to be able to go through that. It's just an idea. I do like the percentages. I think that's nice. But questions about smaller orders, I guess it's mostly just a self-selecting thing at this point on making sure if if the buyer needs 2 plants in particular, that they are then, hopefully it filters out the way this is set up currently. It filters out to where it's the closest person that will get those two, will be able to give them those 2 plants.
Right. Yeah, that's where it starts to get kind of tricky, is whenever they have really small orders. And one thing that we have set up is that you guys have kind of direct contact to us. So if you're like, look, this is kind of a special thing, I just need, either request an update to the program, or we could just make an exception, administratively. So there's always going to be like kind of special circumstances, and I mean, we certainly understand that, and that's kind of programmatically, if it comes up again and again, it just makes sense to make an adjustment, to make a change to the program to allow for that feature. I will say just real quick, one of the things about the way we have it set up is that it promotes unique varieties. So like Bill in particular has a lot of varieties that he's really he owns sort of himself, and that there's not a lot of other growers out there. So if there was something like in particular, he may be the only line item that's on there. If that makes any sense, if there was a special grass or ground cover, et cetera, that well, I mean, he's like the only guy that's doing it.
Well, I've got an example, but just.
That
Not all of it.
Well, so there was a unique plant a broker was looking for a local Oklahoma City nursery, and so they had called Bill up and said, I need 2 sand plums. Well, it doesn't make sense for Bill to drive 2 sand plums from Lake Thunderbird over to Oklahoma City, and the only way that deal would probably work out is if that nursery would send someone out to pick them up. So that's where kind of like the sort of rejecting an order, if it just doesn't make sense logistically, it doesn't make sense, then the fix for it right now is either you would find another variety, or if there's another participating nursery, that order would go to them and they would have the opportunity to fulfill it. Until we get a little bit further along and we have more I guess logistics features on there, that's probably the best fix for that.
I have a question about pricing. So what happens if one grower has a 10 gallon or a 1 gallon blue stem for $10 and another has a 1 gallon blue stem for $12?
Sure. So what we're doing now is we're making an average pricing model. So it takes, if you've got 2 participating nurseries on one light item, it takes their prices and averages them. So it will be 10.50. I think, didn't he say 10 and 11?
10 and 11 or 10 and 12.
Yeah.
Either way, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the idea of like co-oping and kind of doing a collective, if you will, is not like a new thing. It's just that it's not really done in the nursery business. But I mean, anyone that knows like large scale agriculture and farming and like wheat and corn and commodities, it's the same idea. I mean, you're pooling your resources together, you're pulling your inventory together and coming and basically creating a market price.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. This video and then the video that we'll upload, you'll have to probably kind of comb through that to get a feel for how to do the inventory side of it. Can I ask everyone a question? Does everyone use QuickBooks? I use it. Do you use QuickBooks? Jordan?
Yep.
Do you guys use QuickBooks?
I do not.
Okay. Let's see I think there was maybe 2 others on here. Are you guys using QuickBooks right now?
We do have QuickBooks, but we don't use it for inventory currently.
Okay. I'll say this, we were not using QuickBooks for inventory. We had QuickBooks, and we would do things with QuickBooks, but we weren't using it for inventory until we built this program. So that's another way that we can help you guys. If you already have a QuickBooks program, it's just going to make it easier. Otherwise, you're going to have to manually make changes, which long term I don't think is the best solution. So we can help you not only with the PPN side, but on the QuickBooks side, and it's not hard to do. It's not a hard system to use. So I'm just throwing that out there, for just food for thought, I guess. trying to get growers on board. If obviously if you know of any, would please send them our way. This program, as we build it and bring in users, it's able to spit out data. So you can start to make informed decisions. Like for us, each season we're like, what are we going to grow and how many are we going to grow? I mean, that's like kind of the burning question, and there's a lot of question marks around it. So for to have a program that can give you some kind of feel for what's out there, what's being grown, and I may have like a plant that I really like, and would like to grow, but really don't have any other reference. Well, if I look into the program and there's 1,000 or more on hand, I may not grow it, because like, why would I grow it when there's so many already being produced? And there might be other plants that I really like and look onto the program and see that it's not being grown at all. So you get a big enough collection of growers and users, that information becomes really important. This program itself is it's on the ground floor right now, so we're building it out, and really, it starts with the growers and the nurseries. So I mean, we're gonna, just, I don't know, just pound the pavement and try to find as many as we can to get on board. Like I said, it's free. It doesn't cost anything. We're willing to help. We have our email and ways to message us. And then we have some other helpful resources like FAQs and help and video within the platform itself. We'll take this, and like I said, we'll chop it up a little bit to where it all makes sense. And then we'll upload it. And once it's uploaded, we can share where that's at.
Oh, sorry. There, like I mentioned a little bit ago, this is going to be still growing and changing. So you may see tweaks in the left nav. You may see different things going on in the top nav. You may see different configurations happen because we're just going to keep improving it and making it better and better. So don't be alarmed if you use it one day and come back the next day and it's a little different. That's not a bad thing. So
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you for hopping on and giving us some questions and some good feedback.